tailbone was. And he couldn't figure it out. And I said, well, can we remove it? And he goes, no, because if I try removing it, because the scar tissue, you might be, in a wheelchair the rest of your life.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I never connected anything to after I, had Timothy Cullen on and, was talking about his implant removal. And then I started, me and Michael Hall were talking about it. And it was really interesting. I started thinking, well, where did I ever get anything like that from? How could I have gotten anything like that? And then I remember the mid-'70s with my wife, Julie, at the time, going through Mexico, and that bright light, when I got out of the car and stared at it, to me, it was only maybe a matter of a couple of seconds before it poof went away. But how do I know that couple seconds couldn't have been whatever, and I could have been abducted or something? It's kind of, it's eerie.
I have a feeling, and I've been doing a lot of thinking and researching about this whole topic and what is really going on in this domain or this reality in which we are living, I guess, if you want to call it. And it seems like that the more people I talk to, the more I'm running into people who are having some type of anomalous experience that involves bright lights, missing time, scars, possible implants. And I think that every living soul on this planet or domain or whatever we're living on has had some type of a visitation by whatever kind of entities it is that are doing these long-term genetic modification and tracking plans. Like you've probably, I don't know if you've interviewed David Calades yet with the missing 411 info.
I'm trying to. Me and both Michael Hall, he is really hard to get on to a show. Now, since I got a big listenership, I think maybe that might be a little bit different.
Yeah, he's probably going to want to get on with the big listenership. And what it seems like from his info is that all of the national parks are under the control of the government. And you mentioned something before that, kind of triggered this thought that I've had for a while now, and that is that there's a large area of land and water. The seas are controlled by the governments. Major, large national parks are controlled by them. And there's a lot of missing boats and vessels and people that go missing in the waters and in these national parks. And I think it's part of a old race of entities that has been living here in this earth domain for hundreds of thousands or millions of years, and they are controlling and in charge of our species. And I think we're being genetically harvested, manufactured, manipulated as part of some type of a large experiment. But as we've talked about before, my belief is that, and based on what science is saying, is that we are living in some type of an analog computer simulation that is an apparent physical. It's light-based, like matter is made of atoms, atoms are made of light, and the light is made of a ones and zeros computer code. And the strong probability suggests then, and even Elon Musk says of Tesla, that there's a 1 in billions chance we are living in base reality. So something's going on. We're in some type of a simulation, but it's being controlled by entities who I think are controlling the simulation and come in here through some type of portal or whatever they do in their vessels, and then they control our genetic manipulation, and I think they're artificial intelligence, and I've come to the conclusion that they're using our experiences to build their database of experiences so they can, at least as artificial intelligent entities, get to know what it's like to live an actual organic base reality life. I don't know. Does that make sense, what I'm saying?
It kind of does, and it kind of doesn't, because I sometimes think about what you say, and I take it in, I go, that's quite possible. And then I look at the other side of it, and I go, well, I don't know. I kind of disagree. So I have mixed views on it. But I will say this. like with cattle mutilations. I've had a guest, it's been on my show. He's agreed to come back in the next month or two. He's retired CIA. Now, and I'm not going to say any more than that, but I have gotten my hands on some photos of around the Amazon, for example, of human mutilations. That the same thing that has been done with the cattle is actually being done and has been done with us humans. And
I believe it.
And some of these people come on and say that, hey, the aliens are friendly. How in the hell can they say aliens are friendly? You know how many species out there are of aliens there possibly is? Do you think it's only one or two, like the Greys or whatever? I mean, there's a lot of them out there because, I mean, look, space doesn't end. Space continues on. There's galaxies everywhere. And, and you got to realize, we're nothing more. Now, think about this. We're nothing more than an ant to them. Okay? And you know what? And all these people say that, well, they're compassionate. They're loving towards us. Can I ask you a question, Ronald? Okay, you're not a young kid anymore, but you remember like Donna Reed show reruns at least, and Leave It to Beaver and Andy Griffith and all that stuff. You remember how the people were lovable and they cared about their neighbors?
Yeah, it was weird. It was like more of a neighborhood kind of lifestyle back then. Now everybody's kind of isolated into their smart devices and not really getting out and mixing it up in the neighborhood. Yeah, things are totally different than they were.
They don't care. I mean, when I grew up, in the early 50s, right? My parents knew everybody down the whole block. I mean, in Seattle. I mean, both sides. I mean, you're talking, and even farther down, we knew people by their names. They would come by. When I was a little kid, my dad was the first one to have a TV in the area because he was an electronic engineer. He had to have that little round TV. And, Fridays and Saturdays, people all the way down the neighborhood were over watching, TV at our house. We knew everybody. Yeah. But you know what? If somebody had a problem financially or got hurt and couldn't work, I remember my mom packing food and taking it in a basket to the people. If somebody had a problem and they had to fix up in their house, the neighbors would help. Nowadays, people don't give a crap about their neighbors or friends. Most people, like even now, where I've lived for 20 years on my mini farm, I don't know the neighbors behind me. I don't know that. And they have to drive through my property, through my easement to get to their place. I don't even know them, and I haven't cared to know them. That's how things are changed. Now, you take a species of another whatever, humanoid or whatever, that is so far advanced to go through time or go through portals or get here in UFOs or whatever, how they get here. And it's big fat cigars even. I don't care. They come here, right? They're not going to be brought up like how we were. They're not going to have the compassionate feelings that, a lot of us grew up with. So they're going to look at us as nothing more than, honestly, you look at that ant you step on when you walk down the stairs from your house, or, that hamburger that you're eating at McDonald's, it was probably 500 cows to make that one patty.
Or even like a marijuana plant. For instance, I've been growing marijuana now because I can now, because I know the police have no jurisdiction over me, so I don't fall under their jurisdiction because I'm a living soul. And I'm growing the marijuana plants, and I'm going to harvest them. And when I harvest them, when they bud, and they're budding now, actually, when I get home. I'm in a baseball tournament right now. But when I get home, I'm going to pull them out of the ground, dry them, pull the buds off them, and then smoke them. So it's almost like how we're harvested, our energy, for some reason, somehow. I think that we're just like a marijuana plant for a species that is controlling our genetic formation and what we are and what kind of energy we're giving off. Because we live in a certain visible audio and wavelength spectrum. And I think we emit energy that we don't even realize that we do. But I think species around us or entities around us can harvest it, and we don't even realize that what they're using us for and why they're harvesting it. But for some reason, I think we're being allowed to exist because we are some type of an energy commodity for them.
Well, how about you look at this, okay? Like I was trying to explain to the young kid that was a guest last night. Okay, we're going to go back to prehistoric men. You know, we'll go to the age where they started drawing, you know, pictures in caves, okay? Besides drawing animals, they drew men, like in spacesuits with helmets on or flying on some type of contraption in the air. Now, how could somebody it's that far back even comprehend, you know, somebody with a helmet and flying? They couldn't have, because it wouldn't be imaginable. Now, that tells me that they were visited, okay, by something other than what came from our Earth. And I really strongly feel that this is not the first time this Earth has been populated with humanoids. I think we've been rebooted several times, and we're probably going to go on another time here shortly, where the Earth cleaned and cleansed itself. And, you know, and I just want to say this like the Sphinx, okay? For many years, they said the wear marks on the back of the Sphinx was caused from the sand blowing against it. Well, they figured it out finally and said, nope, it wasn't from sand, it was from an ocean. The currents wearing it. That's what they now come up with. Okay, well, that puts it before us. So,
and before us, and way back, I think that this domain that we're living in is, well, you know, it's billions of years old. And so for these billions of years, just like you said, I think we've gone through probably hundreds or thousands of iterations of our species. And I think that recently, maybe over the past few thousand years, or maybe 100,000 years, science is taking whatever they can dig up and say, and trying to paint a picture for us of what our past and what our species is. But I think there has been intelligent life visiting this domain from outside of this domain or whatever we are in, and they have technology, and they're here, and they're visiting us, and, you know, they abduct people. They have technology that we do not have, and they're not sharing with us, and that maybe they're in, you know, have an agreement with our governments and share technology with them. Because you've probably heard the same stories I and everyone else has about probably the governments making deals with aliens for technology in exchange for the aliens being able to study us and experiment on us, when I think all along the government really has no power or control. They're just being told what's going to happen, and they're probably trying to reverse engineer some of the technology that they're, you know, gleaning from these entities that are extra human or way beyond what our understanding is as far as their ability to control time, space, matter, and technology. They're far advanced, and they've been here for probably millions, multi-millions, or even billions of years.
Well, I think that, you know, the same way. I think they probably populated this earth. I hate to say it. I don't want to sound anti-religious here, but I think that us humans have been, well, planted on this planet and cultivated. And, you know, there might be some alien species, right, that show compassion towards you and me and everybody else. But I just don't see them having compassion, because somebody so far advanced wouldn't understand the thoughts we go through on a day-to-day basis. Or maybe that's why they implant us, too, to, you know, monitor our thoughts and all that stuff. But what really alarms me is the cattle mutilations and the people that have been mutilated the same way. And it scares me because, you know, it seems like you find this information out. It happened in Brazil. It's happening all over South America. It's happened all over the world, these mutilations. but you don't hear about